Hi, so I am a pre-postnatal certified health coach. I've been helping women like before, during, and after pregnancy for over 10 years. I am also currently 5 months pregnant myself. So I'm going to answer some of the questions that a lot of my clients have for me when they're going through pregnancy or preparing for pregnancy, both from the expertise side and just from the living it side. The first most obvious one is like healthy ways to manage common pregnancy symptoms. So, as a caveat for all of this, there are extreme levels of pregnancy symptoms. Those are symptoms that need to be medically addressed. What I'm talking about is more what you expect, kind of like the life disruptive nausea and fatigue, headaches, blood pressure, not blood pressure issues, but blood sugar issues, things like that. So, most people experience that sometime in the first trimester. That's the most common. Obviously, you can experience it throughout pregnancy, so this may be useful for you the entire time. Personally, all of those symptoms for me hit really hard, almost right exactly at week 6, and they lasted right up until week 12, 13, and started to taper off. So there's a lot of information out there that'll tell you during pregnancy, eat 5 small meals a day. But what I noticed when I was looking at it is none of it tells you why. I think it all frames it as like, this is just a healthy thing to do. The reality is that doing that is for your blood sugar. So it also will help you not feel shitty in that, or not feel as shitty in that first time frame. Because as anyone who has been pregnant knows and has had symptoms, it is wonderful and beautiful and amazing to have a baby, but that doesn't mean that pregnancy is wonderful and beautiful and amazing for everyone. It wasn't for me in the first trimester, and that's okay. There are ways to manage it. So, the reason that that helps is because pretty early on, like almost at least by like week 4 or 5 ish, your blood volume, so the amount of blood in your body, starts to increase really rapidly to supply baby, eventually placenta, all that fun stuff. That is going to have a pretty powerful effect on your blood sugar. It's also the reason that they check blood pressure and worry about things like preeclampsia. Changes in blood sugar are going to cause nausea, a little bit of fatigue, and can even be related to some of the like digestive issues that you have. So, in addition to just small meals, a lot of people feel nausea like as soon as they wake up. The easiest way to at least reduce that is to try to get food in you as immediately after when your eyes open as physically possible. So for me, my husband would bring me like a cup of yogurt, which is what I could stomach, and a piece of fruit while I was still laying in bed before I sat up. If you don't have someone that can do that, like a cooler or a mini fridge by your bed that you put like your little breakfast snack in, and try to eat that as quickly as possible. And eating often throughout the day, even if it's just little snacks, will help with some of that nausea. Again, it's not going to make it go away, but it'll help to reduce it a little bit. All the other stuff that they tell you, like ginger, peppermint, that kind of stuff, that helps as well. Find a way to consume it that works for you. I know at one point I loved ginger candies like pre pregnancy. And I got to a point where I was eating them so often for my nausea that they became my food aversion. And so I switched to like ginger soda, ginger ale, that kind of stuff, and that helped. A lot of people also experience feeling a little overheated or not being able to stomach hot foods. That was definitely the case for me. Like I had a hard time drinking water. So ice, or I got like a little ice crush situation, and I made little like slushies and things for myself just to hydrate. So trying to prioritize those things that'll help manage a little bit of your overheating. And then the frequent meals, cold meals, so things like yogurt, sandwiches, um, chicken salad. I made like a chickpea salad thing. Those types of cold food that still prioritize your protein as much as possible will help. Again, if you are in the camp of you are very, very sick and you are throwing up often, that is a talk to your doctor situation. Like throwing up sometimes is it's going to happen to a lot of people. But if it's frequent where you can't keep food down, that can be a serious diagnosis and you need to talk to your doctor. But if it is more in the normal range of just like nausea and food aversion, that kind of stuff, just lean into what works. Don't really aim for perfection. Like I got to a point where if it was hot food, it was ordered in, like sometimes even fast food. And I just did my best to pick things that at least had protein and at least had veggies and just kind of wait it out until it passes. So just prioritize like the big ones and do your best with the rest and eat often. And that'll help with a lot of those symptoms. Um, and eating ice is fine. I think that there's a lot of narrative out there that eating ice is a problem. It's fine. You can eat ice. It can be rough on your teeth. So that's why I got the ice crusher or get like ice chips or something, but you're fine. This is a big one. Some capacity of what exercises can I do while pregnant, insert activity there. So like running, swimming, Pilates, tennis, weightlifting, all that stuff. There is not a set, you cannot do X while pregnant within reason. Like if you are a stunt artist or something where you're very likely to fall on your belly, that might be a no. But most forms of like typical activity, even high level activity, are safe if it is not new. So the general metric is anything that you've been doing consistently and at like some frequency, like at least a couple times a week for 6 months or more prior to becoming pregnant, you can continue to do at that same capacity while pregnant until your body may or may not tell you otherwise. Now, there are different stipulations for different sports. Like there are things that you may have to modify. So, for example, I am an aerialist, so like aerial silks, lyra, trapeze, all that fun stuff. I am still doing that because I've been doing that for a couple of years before becoming pregnant. That said, one of the apparatuses, lyra, the hoop, was a little bit newer for me. Like I had just started learning it maybe like 3 months before becoming pregnant. So I did stop doing that. But aerial silks, which is my main apparatus that I use, I still do that. I just skip anything that's like cinched around my waist and putting pressure on my abdomen. But as long as I'm still able to do it and can manage it, I intend to do that throughout my pregnancy. And that applies to any other sport. I have a client right now who's pregnant and plays tennis, and she will be encouraged to continue to do that for as long as her body allows her to. And that is kind of a conversation with like me and her doctor and how her body's responding to things and managing symptoms. So it is very good for you to be active during pregnancy. And if you're already active before, trying to maintain that as best you can is great. It is not a time to like learn new active skills or max out your existing skills. So like weightlifting is something else that I do. I'm not going to be doing a like heavy max. Like I'm not max testing a lift during pregnancy right now, especially because like max testing isn't something I was doing really often before. You don't want to do anything that's like max effort. And that is not like a weightlifting is dangerous thing. It's more when you're maxing out in something, your blood pressure rises. And that has a strong effect on like blood pressure, blood sugar. And that's not something that you really want to happen while you're pregnant because that can stress you and the baby. So you might not want to max out, but if you're like a power lifter, for example, you can continue on your standard program that you're on before, just within reason. Like at certain points, like keep an eye on the belly. Make sure that you're still aware of like it being there and not hitting yourself in the stomach with something or things like that. So being aware of it, but you don't need to necessarily stop doing it. Kind of as like an adjacent thread to that, I see a lot of people talking about like core work during pregnancy. And I've seen some mention of like not doing planks or certain types of core work during pregnancy. Some of that may be related to like a hold, like an isometric hold is another thing that can affect blood pressure. So if you're someone that's like at risk of preeclampsia or had high blood pressure before, or that's a concern for you, then maybe not like isometric holds because of what it does to your blood pressure. But core work is something you really should be doing as best you can during pregnancy, because there's something called diastasis recti. Some people pronounce it diastasis recti, whichever. It is basically the abdominal wall, like your rectus abdominis, which is what we think of as like the abs. Those are two bands. As your belly stretches, if your core muscle is weak or not ready for it, instead of it just stretching like forward, it'll open up, and then you just have this big gap right here in the middle where the muscles are separated. And that is recoverable, but it can be really hard to recover. And in really extreme cases where strength training is not doing it and your organs are at risk, it can require surgery after. And the best way to avoid that is proper core bracing, where you're learning to like draw in or corset at the core. And like what I teach my clients is placing their hands here and kind of think about lacing those two muscles in together and drawing in that way, creating a corset. Even if you're not comfortable doing like core work, which abs, like crunches, sit-ups, those aren't great for you regardless. So I don't do those, but like regular like planks for most people, dead bugs, tucks, knee raises, that kind of stuff, that's all fine. If you're not comfortable doing that though, you can literally just practice like that bracing and drawing in action when you're doing other exercises. If that's where your comfort level is, I would encourage you to do core work of some kind while you're pregnant. It'll help. And then the last one is just generally staying active during pregnancy. Like if you're already active and trying to figure out how to mitigate some of those symptoms and how you're feeling and what to do. Some of that I already answered with letting you know like what's safe. Again, if you've already been doing it, continue doing it. If you're someone whose symptoms is causing you to really hit a wall with your activity, which was the case for me when my symptoms were worse, it just really becomes a listen to your body time. This is not a power through the pain moment. So, for example, if you are feeling nauseous and you're getting headaches and fatigued and lightheaded, that's not really a good time to work out regardless, because you're putting yourself at risk in general, again, of blood pressure issues. So that's definitely not something you want to do while pregnant. So for example, when my symptoms were at their worst, my typical week looked like I would do some kind of normal workout a week, depending on what that felt like. That would maybe be an aerial class if I was feeling real good by that point, or it would maybe be going to the gym and just moving around and doing whatever stuff I could handle without feeling nauseous or lightheaded. And then the rest was just going on a walk as often as I could. And there was like 4 weeks of that where that was about the best it looked. And then as the symptoms started to like taper a little bit, I would maybe get in the gym or get in a workout of some kind twice, and then a walk as many days as possible. Pre-pregnancy, for example, to give you kind of like a frame of reference, I was like in the gym twice a week, doing aerial 3 times a week, usually some other form of like acrobatics class once a week, a splits class, like a mobility class once a week. And then we would go on a walk most days. So like 7 days a week, I was like active at a moderate to high level. And so that's just tapered down to like, I'm now active at a moderate to high level, like 4 or 5-ish days a week as where I am right now. But when I was tapering off, it reduced a lot. And I just kind of stuck through like trying to prioritize moving my body so I didn't feel stiff and gross. And again, that also helps manage blood sugar. This is a reminder. Alexa, stop. So yeah, just like work with your symptoms, stay as active as you can. Any amount of activity during pregnancy is going to help you, the baby, and birth. It's like if the more active you are, even if it's just walking, it will make birth easier relative to you. So that doesn't mean like if you are someone who like birth was just going to be hard because that's just how your genetics work, it doesn't mean it's going to be easy. But If it was going to be really, really hard, it would be like hard. Like it's going to bring it down a little bit. So it just like when we're talking about, but one of the most painful things, if not the most painful thing that someone can do, if we can reduce that a little bit, we want to. And obviously keep our baby healthy. So staying as active as you can, and just don't be too hard on yourself um, if your activity level takes a real dip for a little while. More likely than not, if you are on like the more normal path of symptoms where they do start to dissipate, it is temporary. It is just a do your best, listen to your body. This whole period of our lives is listen to our body. So just do your best, listen to your body, move when you can, and just trust that either as symptoms diminish or you just kind of get into a rhythm with what it feels like, you will be able to increase it to some degree. But just go in knowing that even when you're feeling your best, there's going to need to be some modifications. Like I'm having to do some modifications now and I'm feeling fine because that's just the nature of it. But staying active is just like listening to what you can physically handle.